Sorry about that. Just so much details come from these timeline analysis. I'm sure I've already over-articulated redundantly so many points, but well, quite frankly, my brain kind of hurts from reading so much, and I still have so much more to read. That's required reading for my course, and this is giving my brain a bit of a reprieve. So I apologize for inflicting that on you if you don't enjoy it. But if you don't enjoy it, well, you can just not watch. Marijuana destroyed my life, right? So I could still have my left hand if this didn't happen, if that didn't happen, that sort of thing, cause and effect. My assertion is here in the 1960s, marijuana was pushed on the United States by the people with the Doors and Janis Joplin and, Jimi Hendrix. That was the 70s, but 60s as well. The Beatles, etc., right? Social engineering. The wealthy elites up here cause the problems of the poor down here by pushing drugs and sex. That is a eugenics thing. Since, I think, Weimar, Berlin, right? Like Weimar period. The theory was that the genetically inferior couldn't handle drugs and sex the way the genetically superior could. Therefore, it would weed the poor out of the gene pool. That drugs and sex would, weed out the genetically inferior from the gene pool, yeah. Anyway, so I'm assuming that marijuana culture influenced my dad to be a philosopher and a poet, a bum, instead of a real man. Now, one of my biggest assertions for that is his dad, allegedly, I don't think they were biologically related, Tone Mondragon, he actually worked really hard his whole life. He used to run cattle from New Mexico to Montana, for example, before most of those highways and cities were even built. He was in the Korean War. He built his house out of materials from the mountains. Made his own concrete with a sledgehammer. Stuff like that. He was no slacker. My dad. Philosophy, poetry, man, yeah. Right? So I'm assuming that the evil marijuana pushers destroyed my life even before I was born. It's one thing to say, had my mental health professional not been a rat piece of shit, but authentically provided mental health, tangibly effective mental health, that would have been prevented. I'm assuming the marijuana growers of Vashon Island controlled my mental health professional and told him what my diagnosis would be. Anyone who's lived on the West Coast, especially Northern California up into the Puget Sound area, knows how true that statement likely is. I could still have my left hand. I could still have all of my feet. I could still have. I could have had a family and a home, if not for marijuana. My initial thinking was it was my genetics, my inferior genetics to the white man, right? This is not the case. Joshua DeHaven, for example, on Vashon Island. I used to think, oh, well, this guy grows marijuana, he sells marijuana, they have a ton of money, they go to Hawaii, they're fine, right? These white people can clearly handle their drugs better than I can. Until he told me about his mother. Or until I remembered him telling me about his mom. His mom abandoned his family for drugs. Specifically methamphetamine, but marijuana is a gateway drug into methamphetamine. The state of Colorado legalized marijuana. The first year, its overdose death rate declined. And then rose every year after that until 2020, I think, and then it kind of stabled out. Yeah. The methamphetamine overdose death rate increased every year after legalization because marijuana is a gateway to methamphetamine. So I guarantee Joshua DeHaven's mother, just like my dad, marijuana culture through the hippies and the acid and Janis Joplin and all that led to her abandoning her family for methamphetamine. That her timeline analysis, marijuana predated the meth use and the family abandonment, etc. So clearly Whitey is not immune or invincible to the adverse effects of drugs. Yet Whitey cannot live without his booze and his drugs. But I'm on the internet quite often, and I have these conversations with white supremacists, or I assume they're white supremacists. They could be feds, or who knows. Anybody can be anything behind an anonymous account, right? They will tell me these arguments. Oh, this is white man's drug, and the white man can handle drugs that you can't. And I think, well, white people can metabolize alcohol better than Native Americans. That was a huge contributing factor, along with the pathogens, to the outcome of the Americas. But if you look at the the drug zombies in San Francisco, Philadelphia, this is where politics get really slimy. Conservatives will lie and say those are liberal-run cities and policies. It's the marijuana. The marijuana increases homelessness and harder drug use everywhere it's been legalized. But the conservatives won't honestly say it's the weed. And the majority of those homeless people on drugs in those videos